All right, we're recording. We're here today, joined by our buddy Jamie of Zeno Seed Company. We are on the Hottest Part of the Day podcast. This is our 5th episode. I'm joined here today by my co-host, Tamara Thorne. She's milking a back injury and eating a ton of RSO and sleeping it off. Wave hi, honey. Say hi. So she'll be listening in, but probably won't be contributing too much. But super stoked to have you join us today, Jamie. We've put the invite out. We're going to have some other friends drop in, hopefully. You're somebody whose genetics I got to enjoy before I ever met you, because our good friend Luke at Black Cat Genetics up in Humboldt, Southern Humboldt, has run a bunch of your gear this last year, done some awesome pheno hunts. And before we ever met you, we were enjoying your chemtrails hash, so much so that I was already asking Luke, where do I get these genetics? And was so impressed. I secured the bag from you, my man. So thank you for hooking it up. And we've got one beautiful chemtrails plant growing in our personal garden this year. So we're super excited for that, bro. And yeah, we met you down at the Lotus Entheogenic Church at some of the events there in Oakland, where we're hosting our next Regen Sesh coming up on August 16th. And you're going to be joining us for the day as a vendor with your awesome genetics. We're super excited to get some time with you today, bro, and hear about your journey and what you've been working on right now. I know you got some exciting news, some big stuff just happened for Zeno Seed Company. And yeah, the floor is yours, Jamie. Welcome to the hottest part of the day. First of all, how hot is it, and where are you today?
I am in El Cerrito, California, and it is actually not bad at all here right now. It's like 70 degrees right
nice.
around. Stays cool because we're in the Bay Area, so we get the fog bank, kind of keeping it not too bad no matter where. So just chilling here on the heat at least.
Awesome. Yeah, it's 91 here in Middletown and Lake County today. It's supposed to be 100 tomorrow.
Yeah, so with the strain, I really, you talked, the chemtrails is great. That was kind of a throwaway project that never really got off the ground, the First Class Funk, but still has totally great stuff in it. But we just kind of got, it's not enough time to do everything, so we never really got to hunt that line thoroughly. But really, the black bubblegum obviously is the one we did that really has blown up the most, even from the beginning. When I was first doing my first reversal was the horchata from Compound Genetics. It was the cultivated and Node Labs cut a couple years ago, and that I love the cut so much I reversed it. And when I was hunting out the first batch of seedlings, the black bubblegums, which are the spritzer times horchata, were so just beautiful with the color and the bud structure and the smell. I mean, and as soon as I was posting pictures of those ones, people were blowing me up for seeds of that. And the super small batch initially, I mean, it sold out in like a week. It was just like 15 packs or something. But that one now, the new black bubblegum seed line is out, ready to purchase for anyone who wants seeds. And actually, if you're a licensed farmer in California, you can get the black bubblegum clone through Finest and their pilot program called Dub Plates. So if you go to the Dub Plates website, and if you're a California licensed farmer, you can order the black bubblegum breeder cut ready right now. And so that clone is now ready for production throughout California, already being grown at a bunch of farms. We actually Finest just did a branded flower release of the black bubblegum. They're calling it the black bubblegum horchata. So I was at Sanctuary Dispensary in Sacramento for the first day of that release, and we gave away like a bunch of free like swag and bags, hats, lighters, kind of for people who were buying it. So it's already on the shelves in form of flower, and you can get the clone, and anyone who wants the seeds can reach out to me and get them directly from me. And so it's been a couple years, but black bubblegum is finally available to the public.
Awesome, man. Well, big congratulations, Jamie. That's huge. It's a lot of breeders' dreams to get their genetics out into a wider market and to really reach a lot of people, and that's so exciting, man, to see something you worked so hard on end up on shelves, end up in people's gardens, and that's always a joy when you get to see your plants growing in other people's gardens, huh?
It's totally a blessing. I mean, that was definitely always like when I started breeding cannabis, selling seeds, that was definitely like the long-term dream. I was like, ah, man, it would be so cool if like one day I got a clone in a big nursery, and I was like, maybe in like 10 years or something. And then bam, here we are ready to go. And the seed line is, oh man, they look and smell so great. And it actually, I was, you never know what you always gotta, I know, this as a cannabis breeder, that you never know what your project is actually going to be until you've grown it out. And so definitely growing out that first batch of seeds, I was nervous because it was a long time in the making. I'm like, man, I really hope these deliver. And man, it's color, terps, vigorous growth, and the one thing I wasn't counting on, which is such a nice blessing, was also brought down like the flower time. The horchata, for as much as I love it, it really was like a 9 to 10 weeker. And the black bubblegum is really an 8 to 9 weeker. And it's just like, man, so it's just like a week off the board basically. And for the new, I'll have actually, I'll show you at the next Lotus Regen session. We'll have a ton of new black bubblegum flower for people to check out. It looks great. It smells great. Purple frosty, just killing. And the terps are just on fire.
Yeah, you've been showing some beautiful pictures of that black bubble gum over the last couple of weeks as that strain's been rolled out, and yeah, really stunning. What were some of those characteristics you were looking for as you were breeding that, hunting that? You mentioned the dark color, and obviously those trichomes are amazing. And is this a good washer as well, or is this something you really bred for that beautiful flower production and that nice
I always breed for flower production. I don't really do a lot of hash making. But it does seem like I think it would do pretty well. Definitely, there's a lot of phenos with gritty trichomes in there, and I know Luke from Black Cat has gotten the dum dums to wash pretty well, which is actually pretty similarly genetically. So I think it's not like bred for hash, so it's not going to be like those ones that are just straight up hash plants. But I think it'll wash pretty decently, and made a whole bunch of crosses, and some of those will definitely be washers, depending on which cross we were doing that with. But I would love to see people making some concentrate out of it, which hopefully will be coming around soon, because I know they've already got it in a bunch of gardens, and they've already got it going through the meristem tissue culture for next year to go into the main finest program. I looked for, so the color. We all love the color. Um, I always I like a big strong plant with a really good structure. I especially when I test these seeds out, I do about 1 square foot per plant. So I've got 25 plants in a 5 by 5 foot tent typically. And what this means is like any of those like really bushy, squat, anything without a good structure really just has to go. It can't compete, So they just go early. I do think that's probably one of the best things. One of the best ways I like to breed is probably select for like structure as your very first thing, and then from there look for your more flower production traits, your terps, taste, kind of. But if you start with eliminating all the plants with just a crappy, weak structure, then you'll never be left with a winner that you really don't like the way it grows and is tough to work with. So I really like easy to work with plants. I think it's also it's good for home growers, and it's good for farmers. I always wanted to make seeds for farmers, so these are supposed to be easy to produce, easy to grow, easy to work with, and give you something that you can sell without a problem. And that's absolutely what we're seeing. And so we've got the quick flower times, big yields, and Finest tested the black bubble gum, and this is the cut that I used for the whole seed line, and it tests at 36%.
Wow.
So we got high testing. I think it's actually, I don't want to be quoted on this, it's either the first or the second highest testing strain on their menu right now.
Wow.
So we got the potency, the color, the black bubblegum terp. I really describe it as a cherry grape. It's definitely got a bit of like creamy gas in there from the horchata, and definitely has some bubblegum notes too. But like this, it's this cherry grape combo that really comes through consistently on the breeder cut, and it comes through in a lot of the pheno, in a lot of the seeds as well. Like on the, we did the Bolo runts times black bubblegum, the Richmond runts. I love that one. Every seed on that one is just beautiful, big purple flowers, and they really get like the cherry grape runts kind of terp going on. It's just super tasty. So it's got great flavor along with being just like a total workhorse for the farmer, and super potent. So as a breeder tool, it's really just checking a lot of the boxes for me.
Hell yeah, man. Oh, that's great insight. Yeah, I dig what you're saying. Selecting for structure right off the bat, that makes so much sense, especially if you're if the end goal, or if you're even thinking about the rec market at all in your breeding, you've got to take into account, like you were saying, flowering times. Structure is such a big one, man. Especially you got people doing many different strains in one room. You've got double-decker rooms, with limited ceiling heights.
Totally.
I think that's really wise. Yeah, people are really have to fill their square footage in a uniform way. Yeah.
Right. Well, the market's getting more competitive, and now production is so much more standardized. I mean, I know the guys that I know in these big indoor facilities are like, in the last 10 years, like the amount of knowledge with the whole drybacks thing and things like that, it's just on a whole another level. And so they really need strains that can adapt and work well and produce well. And so then, and that's where I really like as a breeding tool to get, you always want your breeder parent to be as strong genetically as possible, like just big, beautiful, terpy, and from there, if you have an easy to work with plant, then so I just did the strain I'm calling black and white, which is the Wi-Fi 43 times the black bubblegum. And the Wi-Fi 43 definitely more of a pain to work with, like not an ideal structure, and more of a pain to grow. And a lot of the phenos I found looking in the seeds were totally awesome because it was basically a better Wi-Fi, same terp profile, but just the structure was actually easy to work with. Instead of being all bushy and crappy, it was a nice growing plant that you could put in a modern facility with the Wi-Fi flavor.
Awesome. Hey, I want to welcome to the show real quick our buddy Preston of Rogue Natural Farmer. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Joey. Thanks for having me.
Oh, bro, I'm so happy you could join us. We're also joined by our buddy Jamie of Xeno Seed Company. Jamie's a big breeder up here in the Bay Area.
What's up?
Yeah, Preston is an awesome farmer, educator, regenerative farmer, and we met up here in the Emerald Triangle many years ago, and Preston was a big part of a bunch of educational events that we put on, teaching at, and put on a ton of incredible KNF workshops and Jadam workshops, and just awesome education, brother. And now you've moved recently to San Diego, where you are doing some awesome farming and beekeeping down there. And yeah, brother, I'm super glad you could join us, catch up with us a little bit. And why don't you give us a little background real quick and tell us what you've been working on?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I did make a transition from Humboldt County, really the Pacific Northwest, from about a 13-year span. I was in Humboldt for about 10 years, went up to Oregon. The cannabis industry took me up there, got into doing some hemp, transitioned to some farms over to regenerative methods, including permaculture, Korean natural farming, and Jadam. My methodology has always been kind of a mashup and more looking at the principles and not really the dogma of any approach. I think that's where we can really get into trouble when we have to do things a certain way rather than looking at more the principles of it all. So anyways, I transitioned back to Southern California, where I'm originally from. Specifically San Diego. Started a market garden last year, and then decided the city was a little much for me. I've been living rural for over a decade, and so I had an opportunity to move to North County, and that's where I'm currently at in Valley Center. So I love it. It's great up here, much more rural. It's old avocado country up here. So there's still farms, but a lot of the old farms that didn't make it through the NAFTA era, where basically Bill Clinton signed in the NAFTA agreement and it flooded Southern California with avocados from Mexico, which got a lot of the growers. They literally shut the water valves off, and the mountainsides are like covered in skeletons from the past. So I've really done a deep dive into agroforestry, and specifically syntropic agroforestry, and working with tropical subtropicals, and really diving more into like perennial fruit trees. In the past, I've helped install several food forests, but now it's like my passion is really all about the subtropics and growing fruit. So that's really kind of in a nutshell what I'm doing this year. Along with the bees, I started a bee removal service and have an apiary on the property here too. And it's been great. It's really interesting the feedback I'm getting, because nobody here is doing syntropic agroforestry. So a lot of people think it's cool, and there's also the backlash where you have the real orthodox people that are like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, man, it's awesome to hear that you are having to open some minds. Whenever you do something new, there's always going to be some backlash, and that syntropic farming is so new to people. It's hard for them to wrap their brains around. But permaculture talked about this food forest forever, but never really gave us the blueprint on how to do it. And syntropic farming really seems to be the closest thing to some principles that we could follow that could really get us in line with a food forest really quickly. I also loved what you were saying, Preston, about how when it comes to farming, regenerative farming, you don't follow any one dogma. And I think that's something we really bonded over early on, is when Korean natural farming and Jadam and all these different modalities were first coming on the cannabis scene. There was a lot of different cliques and a lot of armchair warrior trolling and giving each other a hard time, and very few people actually getting their hands dirty and getting the boots on the ground and testing all these theories out. And yeah, we've found that there isn't any one way to do this, that we want every tool available to us, so that when we come onto a project and there's only these resources available, we know how to use them and make the most of our situation. And I've really seen you doing that. I'm so happy to see you adopting syntropic farming and starting to teach that. And why don't you give a little rundown on syntropic farming? Because I know this is really new for people. It's something I've tried to talk a little bit about over the last couple of years as I learn a little bit more about it. We have yet to put in our syntropic farm in up here. We're hoping this fall to be able to get a tractor in here and rip some of our compacted soil where we can actually plant some trees and those tree lines. But yeah, give us a little introduction on syntropic farming, Preston.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't want to claim that I'm any expert myself. I'm always a student. I'm always learning. I think to be a teacher means that you're a lifelong student as well. I think they go hand in hand. And I have some great mentors. I started connecting with a brother named Byron Groves from New Zealand. He's got a great YouTube channel. And just recently, I'm starting to connect with a company called Syntropic Solutions out of Australia, and had one of their guys come to my site. And so I've been getting some really good feedback. And so the gist of syntropic agroforestry, it's very similar to permaculture in the sense that we're growing a community of plants rather than just looking at one plant, like industrial agriculture. Let's just grow this big field of cannabis or tomatoes or potatoes or whatever. We're looking at the different successions. So it's a bit like a chess game because you're always thinking ahead, like, okay, this succession, have a 3-month succession. We have a 3-year succession. We have a 30-year succession. We're looking at all of these different plants, trees that we're planting together in a harmonious community. So there's the symbiosis happening. So we have support, plants that we're putting in the system. And this is obviously something that permaculture has within it, things like comfree accumulators and nitrogen fixers. And so all of these things are welcome within the syntropic way of application too. I just think syntropic agroforestry takes it to another level where we're really looking at right from the bat. You really want to start with more support trees, because the whole idea is, unlike say Korean natural farming in Jadam, where we're making all these inputs that we're bringing into the system, we're trying to create a closed loop system just based off of the biomass that we're growing, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, even in Jadam, this is what I learned from the Cho family as well about growing your own fertilizers. Instead of making them into a JLF or a FPJ, we can just chop and drop them, feed the system, feed the organic matter back into the soil and build the soil this way. So really, from the get-go, you have to start with just a ton of these support species, plants that grow very vigorously. And so again, those accumulators, things like comfree, nettle, are great ones. And then the nitrogen fixers. And so for me, it's been an exploration too of like what works well in this climate. I mean, syntropic agroforestry really applied to any climate. I've seen it applied to deserts, tropical rainforests, oak savanna, name it. So that's the gist of it. And so you're looking at the successional crops that you're producing. So you want to get, obviously, like permaculture, you want to start with a crop that you're going to yield that year, but then you're looking at years to come. So you kind of have these different stratas. So we're not only planting in a lateral rows, we're also looking at the vertical, literally vertically integrating in. Typically, you talk about like 7 layers in that system, just like permaculture. But you could actually do more than that or less than that. But filling all of those gaps, what this allows you to do, unlike some myths that are out there who say that, food forest can't grow the needs of people. You just can't do that in a food forest. They're really cute and fun, but you can't grow the needs of food for people. That's absolutely not true. People like Mark Shepard are showing this is applicable on a large scale, and you can produce a lot more food density than you can with a monocrop, and you can create a larger diversity too.
Yeah, that's great, Preston. It is a lot to wrap our brains around, but yeah, I've taken my stabs at trying to explain it a little bit too. And it's we're integrating trees into our agriculture. That's what agroforestry is. And,
yeah.
Up here we've got this little hemp garden that we put in this year, about 3,000 square feet of hemp beds, and we've got long beds run on contour along the hillside, hugel culture beds, and in between that we've got big alleyways. We've got 8-foot alleyways of this really compacted soil. So that's where we want to put in our syntropic plantings, our tree lines, our perennial tree lines. And we're here in Lake County, where we could do with a lot more shade, a lot more wind protection, a lot more protection from these brutal sun and winds that we get out here. So yeah, we're going to put fruit trees every 30 feet. If that's, what their spacing is when they're mature, or we want to do some grape, some olives as well, which do really well here in this Mediterranean climate up here. And And then, yeah, in between those, we've got our berries in between those, and we've got our vines, our grapes, and our kiwis growing up those trees. And it's really all about how do we fill in that space, get as many different yields over as long a period of time. And every 60 feet, we're going to put in a timber tree that our grandkids can harvest out of this crop that we'll just prune into one big tall log. So like Preston was saying, as many layers of plants and yields at these different heights, these different stratas, as we call them. These are, based on how much light do they need. So how much density are we planting them? And it's really fascinating when you start wrapping your brain around it. And it must be even more interesting moving down there. And now you have access to a whole new climate and a whole new range of plants than you ever got to work with up here in Humboldt and Oregon. What's that transition been like to that? What do you call that? Is that subtropical, or what do you call that climate down there in San Diego?
Yeah, we're subtropical. I'm in a zone 9B to 10A. So it's a really fun zone to experiment with. I mean, we can literally grow mangoes, cherimoya, papaya, pineapple, atamoya, light lychee, and all these cool Asian varieties. I'm growing a bunch of jackfruit. We'll see how well they do, but this is kind of where I've got a little bit of resistance from. Like, for instance, I'm going to the rare fruit growers meeting, a group of growers that meet here, and they invited me to go talk about what I'm doing here in about a month. And a lot of them are open to what I'm doing, but some of them are very resistant. They're like, why would you even think about growing bananas? Like, it's a desert over there. And you were talking about hugelkultur, and again, like with syntropic agroforestry, there's a very specific way of how you manage the biomass very carefully. You don't haphazardly just throw down mulch. Your coppice trees or your chop and drop trees, one of the eucalyptus one that's used basically worldwide. It's really hated on in California. And I had some that's already pre-established here, and people are just like chiming in, spewing so much just hate around the eucalyptus. And I know it's flammable and it has some qualities that are less desirable, but you have things like bay laurel that are even more flammable, that are native. So it's been really interesting adapting to the climate here. And really what I'm trying to do is show that you can create microclimates within these guilds. In permaculture, they're called guilds, or consortiums is a term that's used more in agroforestry, which is a group of plants. And one of my mentors talks about this idea of creating a placenta, right? And so, for example, if you go into the desert and you look at a cactus, generally what you see is there's usually a group of plants that are surrounding that cactus. So you plant one species, and what happens in nature is naturally these stratas will start to establish on their own. And so a lot of what's in tropic agroforestry is biomimicry, and really looking at these relationships of how plants work together to really support each other. So yeah, man, it's been a really exciting transition to the subtropical climate, and things like cherimoya. I've tried so much exotic fruit, and learned a lot about just tropical fruit within the last 2 years, and really just trying to push those boundaries of zones that I'm in to see what I can get away with growing, mangoes and really you name it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, we are definitely a lot more limited up here with what we can do as far as tropical fruit wise. But there is supposed to be a Lake County avocado that'll grow up here. It's supposed to be a smaller avocado that actually grows up here in Lake County, and we've been on the hunt for it for a while. Yeah,
I know there's a grower out east of the Bay Area that's doing a mango farm. So it is, if you get some of these hardy varieties, I think you can get into some of these more hardy tropicals that you can do further up north.
Right on. Preston, is there any cannabis community you're running into down there in San Diego, or are you out of that world these days?
I've always got a toe in. I don't even think I have a foot in, but I got a toe in there. Yeah, man. It's interesting. I live right next to the Rincon reservation, and a whole series of reservations actually out here. And really, they have the cannabis licenses, and they're doing most of that. And so, my roommate does some work. He's not growing cannabis, but he's working on an olive orchard. And I have met some people involved in the management of some of these native farms, and they're really the ones that are, really doing it out here. I've met a few other small growers, but it's definitely not as prevalent as Humboldt County, man. I mean, even though we're in California, the politics are much different down south.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to welcome a very special guest to the show, to the Hottest Part of the Day podcast, all the way from Brazil, our new friend Lucas. Thanks for joining us today, Lucas. This is really really good that you're here on with our buddy Preston, because Lucas is an educator and regenerative farmer in Brazil. I was introduced the other day from our mutual friend Logan Chilter Pierce, who was on here recently, another Jadam farmer and educator from up in Oregon. And he said, you got to get my buddy Lucas on the show and hear about what he's been doing down there in Brazil. So, hey, Lucas, welcome to the show. I'm on here with Jamie and Preston. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, friends. Very nice to be here. Sorry for my English first thing, but I hope we can communicate very well, and it's such a joy and a pleasure for me to be here with you guys. And I follow Joey and Preston from some years, maybe 2 to 3 years, which I have been learning some natural farming and permaculture techniques. So Joey works, and let me see if I can show my garden to you.
Yeah.
Just Okay, let me see the camera. No. This way, maybe? Can you hear? Can you see?
We can see, yeah. A little dark, yeah.
Yeah, it's sun setting here already. So, yeah, just to show very quick. Growing some moringas for ferments. Doing some fermented plant extracts with her. Some papayas, bananas, all together. Some boldo. I don't know how you call this plant. Do you know this plant?
No.
We call boldo here boldo do Chile. It's very great for FPJ. Lots of growing tips. And so, yeah, friends, very nice to be here.
Yeah, looks good, my man. Looks good. So you practice Korean natural farming then? You practice Jadam? Tell us a little bit about your experience, how you learned some of these techniques and what's been working best for you in Brazil.
So yeah, I entered this world through KNF, but learning some another techniques along the way, which are very easy and practical, and sometimes makes even more sense. So doing a lot of Jadam applications here on the beds, some JMS, JLF majorly, and works very, very well, no doubt. And can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So another system which I have been working a lot and improving the recipes is Kyusei nature farming, which traditionally work with EM1. And so FPE recipes, fermented plant extracts, anaerobic bokashi, and all that. And to me, it's very easy to work with and yields a lot. makes such a huge difference with low dosage, like 4 to 8 ml per gallon, it's like 1 to 2 ml per liter. So yeah, very useful and potent.
Very cool, man. And you find that Bokashi kind of setup works best in the tropics? Everything just wants to break down really quick, huh?
Definitely, man. Here we have another very different climatic situation. So you have to be mulching very, very much, and it melts quickly. Literally melts through I mean, 1 2 months, and the green mulch is kind of nothing anymore. So we have to be growing biomass. I mean, syntropic agroforest. It's a huge movement here in Brazil, and I know you guys already know about and be practicing. I see Preston and you, Joey, and it definitely it's a new way, né, to think about agriculture. So yeah, very necessary. Biomass growing, mulching the soil makes a huge difference.
Yeah, Lucas, right before you got on, Preston was talking to us about his syntropic farm that he's putting in down in San Diego. And we were talking a little bit about what is syntropic farming up here in the US. These are very new ideas to a lot of people. And when I started researching this a couple of years ago, it was hard to learn about. All the teachings were in Portuguese. Everything was coming from Ernest Goetsch. And, we want to hear about, what is the syntropic farming movement like in Brazil? Is it is it really converting a lot of bigger agriculture, and is it really happening down there? And for those that don't know, Ernest Goetsch was really the founder of this movement. There's a great movie called Life in Syntropy that everybody should go watch on YouTube. That is a great introduction to this work and this movement. And shows some beautiful farms down there in Brazil, including Ernest's farm. How did you get introduced to syntropic farming? Is it so normal now that when you're just learning about regenerative agriculture, this is just a part of the scene, something you have to know down there now?
Yeah, the movement here is definitely expanding and very fast with much force also. So there are some farms, huge farms, large scale, like Mata do Lobo. You can follow on Instagram. Mata do Lobo is a huge farm, farm coffee, majorly. They are trying also grains with tree lines, and mechanization is necessary for them, so they adapt the tree lines, they make it larger, and definitely working for a lot of people. Uh, but I think also there are some gaps on what is taught, what is promoted. I think we can aggregate more knowledge and techniques all together with syntropic farming. So natural farming is a huge improvement for us. The possibility of applying microbes and accelerating cycles, and don't have to do with pathogens so much. A very much effective way to combat some pathogens and so on, and also the minerals, right? So I think we have 3 pillars on agroecology, which are minerals, microbes, and organic matter. So syntropic farming focus a whole lot on biomass, on organic matter. That is totally necessary. Is a huge improvement for soils, but I think we can also aggregate the other points and make it all together. And soil tests, analysis, chemical soil analysis, get everything in balance, and the system works so very well.
Yeah,
So a lot of young people learning and promoting here in Brazil. So I happy you guys also are connected with this type of knowledge.
Absolutely. To your point, I think that natural farming has a lot to offer syntropic agroforestry and the way of like Jadam, the cultures of JMS, Jadam Microbial Solution, or the IMOs from the KNF, or even like you said, the EM, these biological compost teas, whatever method you use to culture those. I think those are great inoculants to add to the syntropic systems to really supercharge them with the mulches and everything to, you know, get everything functioning, to get your soil food web really cranking and your nutrient cycling happening, you know, along with the organic matter, like you mentioned, the 3Ms and the mulch. And so I love what you're doing. It's a beautiful garden there. And I think, this is the excitement that I have to take the knowledge from Jadam and natural farming that I've learned. And I'm very new into syntropic agroforestry. It really is not being done, at least in Southern California, maybe other parts of California, but I'm not too aware of anybody really practicing it. So I think it has a lot to offer this area where we have a huge agricultural. I mean, I'm close to the Central Valley of California, and it's the biggest breadbasket of the United States. And, you know, the fact that these practices aren't even being really used or utilized, it is kind of crazy to me. I think there's a big use for them here, where, you know, we have so much industrial agriculture and so much monocrop grows, and, you know, a lot of bad practices with a lot of chemicals and salt fertilizers being used.
Do you guys already have some courses, trainings on syntropic agroforest?
I'm working on that. Yeah, as we speak, I'm working on that. One of my mentors, Thiago, he's actually from Brazil originally. He lives in Australia. You might follow him. Syntropic Solutions. Are you familiar with that?
Not yet, but I will follow.
Yeah, check it out. Syntropic Solutions. Yeah, one of my mentors that I just recently started connecting with, Thiago. He'll be here in California in October, and I want to talk to him about doing a workshop here. He's one of Ernst Rosh's students. I'm also trying to get Byron Groves from New Zealand, who spends a lot of time in Brazil, all over South America. I think he's on a trek down through South America as we speak right now. Another brother that is, like, you know, made it his life mission to just basically travel and teach and talk to, you know, everyone that he can about, you know, syntropic agroforestry. So hoping to get Thiago from Syntropic Solutions and then Byron Groves as well. So hoping to line that up, you know, sometime later this season or early next year in California.
Hey, Lucas, tell us what's going on in Brazil for cannabis these days, because I thought I just saw some big news the other day that they were going to legalize recreational for some small personal use. Am I tripping? Is that some big news coming out of Brazil?
Yeah, not so much, but you know, they kind of legally allow the at some instance for you to grow 4 plants or to have, I mean, 40 grams of herb. So it's kind of contradiction, paradoxically, and you know, it's still not legalized. But the movement here is very strong with the associations, medical cannabis associations. So they legally get a permission license from the state, from official judges and so on, so they can grow and can make oils, can make salves, and you know, another products of the plant, can offer those medications for the people. So yeah, not yet legalized, not yet so good, still prohibited, but it's kind of moving more and more.
So are you able to grow as a medical patient then, or how are you able to do what you do, what I see you doing on Instagram?
Yeah, I just share. I mean, I do some consulting for a lot of friends throughout the whole country. So people call on me and I kind of instruct, but I don't grow here, right here. I have how do I say that? I enterprise here. I make the probiotics and the ferments and sell. So, since it's not legalized, I don't want to be risking myself and so on. But I do consult for some medical associations also. So instructing the people how to build the soil, a simple substrate, the soilless media, which we use a lot. And yeah, so biggest thing for me lately working with has been soil analysis, been learning a lot how to navigate this road through the book called The Ideal Soil by Michael Astera. So there are some challenges to adapt. Melic tree tests, which is typical for you guys through Logan Labs, for example. So here we have another methods, but yeah, very cool and it's working, adapting Jardin and KNF to indoor growing cannabis. Been working so very well. People got amazed with the results, and that is very, very nice because we more and more conquer people to see that they can do many other ways than just salt and chemical fertilizers.
Yeah, you have all those incredible tropical fruits down there. You could be making all that incredible terpy fertilizer for your plants. We have a friend up here in Oregon, Whale Oil Extracts, who's a big KNF guy and just swears by, and he does strain specific. If he's growing a blueberry strain, he's feeding blueberries to it. For his strawberry strain, he's growing strawberries to it, and has won many, many awards and credits those fruit-specific terpene ferments to those sweet hashes, and he's growing for hash. So you're dealing with a lot of farmers all around the country, people that are new to growing. Up here we have this huge, big ag cannabis industry, salt-based, heavy input shipped in from all around the world, heavy energy use. Are you seeing a lot of those same companies down there? We don't want to name names because some of our friends have to work for these companies, but yeah, I mean, what are you seeing? We know here we're always kind of we're kind of the little guy up against a big fight and kind of have to yell the loudest about these regenerative practices to get people to take notice. We're up against a big, well-funded beast. Are you up against similar beasts down there?
Yeah, man, definitely. A lot of people, maybe most of growers, still on the same mentality. Yeah, with the same companies you guys know very well. Yeah, they are also here selling the products, the lines, and so on. And it's for us, it's like a pleasure to be educating people, right? To open their minds, to see what we can do with another ways of growing, organic growing. But I have seen lots of people really changing their minds and trying to be out of this type of growing and trying big beds, no chill, né? Which we promote, and it's been working well. But I seem like still have a lot to evolve, right? And tough road and long road for us, but natural farming really makes people eyes shine, making your own GLF, your own fertilizer here and using on the plants and seeing them so healthy and conquer the heart of the people, definitely.
Mm. Lucas,
Hey, I
tell
got
us
a question. Yeah.
about the genetics there that you work with. You know, we're on here with Jamie, Xeno Seed Company, awesome breeder, and I know Preston's made a lot of seeds over the years. I as well. Tell us about some of the genetics. Are there more what we would consider land race and very tropical sativa? You know, you're right there by the equator. Tell us about what you're working with, and are there other breeders that you're bringing in work from?
Yeah, there are some people with that make some breeding and sell good seeds, which are not so, you know, pedigree like the strains which are typically around the U.S., like most common ones, Skittles and so on. But the old ones like land races, Manga Rosa, for example, which we once had here in Northeast Brazil, Pernambuco state, Bahia state, maybe almost missed. I mean, the links, the clones, the seeds, but there are few people that preserve, and but majority of the seeds comes from outside, from Dutch and Amsterdam, Spain, US, many countries. So yeah, the majority is that conventional new genetics also.
Jamie, you ever see any Brazilian seeds, any landrace stuff from down Brazil, Argentina way?
Not Brazilian. Mostly African is what the stuff I've run into. I've run into people doing a lot of projects with African stuff like Luxor or now the closest to I have some A seeds. I have some of their like Guatemalan and kind of South American stuff from them. But I never got to play around with any Belizean. But I do love a good land race. Like the best one's got to be lamb's bread, at least that I've come across. You know, that's just like that cheesy, sweet smell and the just super uplifting, effects. I mean, really, I do think that the land races are where we can bring in different cannabinoids, terpenes that we're not used to be seeing. And I am a big fan of taking something with a really unique cannabinoid, medical use, terpene profile, and then mixing it with a modern commercial strain and with a little bit of pheno hunting, you can normally pull out that unique thing you're looking for in a plant that the modern farmers can actually work with at scale.
Yeah, I love that, bro. We're having that same experience the last couple of years, especially since I moved here to Lake County, where I have this really long, dry growing season, much longer than I had in Humboldt and Mendo. And I can grow things that finish at the end of November, no problem. Where I couldn't even think about that up in Humboldt. So, and yeah, we've had she's had Tamara's had stuff here that finishes in December and January, but what you're saying, landrace hybrids that'll finish within a decent time, still have some decent bud structure to them. So for us, the last couple of years, it's been this heirloom Malawi cross, like you were saying, a nice African that came from Equilibrium Genetics through the African Orange. And then this Chinese landrace that our neighbor's been growing here in Lake County for a lot of years called My Love Has Wings. That also has some Nepali sativa in it. So yeah, finding those hybrids are really cool. It's also got some hash plant in it. So that one's done at Thanksgiving, where if it didn't have that hash plant, it probably would have been a January, December debacle. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that. We've got this Colombian cross with a Panama. We've got a really interesting male that we're working with this year of that. And then our neighbor, another neighbor, has this Forbidden Swazi that we've had a lot of interesting crosses of.
I feel like that's the jar of yours I always smell, and I'm like, this is the one. Like, that forbidden.
Yeah. And like you're saying, you find these totally unique terpenes that are just something new. And that's what we're always looking for, is something new. It doesn't have to be mind blowing, but give me something new, something I haven't smoked or smelled before. And,
yeah, well, for this black bubblegum project, I gotta cut a Durban, and geez, man, I mean, shit reeked. I mean, when I was shucking the seeds, it was just like the Durban terp, just drowning them, and I hunted some of those, and I couldn't believe it how much the Durban terp came through on the seeds with like improved structure, flower time, and yield. I mean, it was like better than I would have hoped for, and it definitely got me thinking on this train. It's like, yeah, that I really do think is the way, because some of these land race, I mean, the Durban was more workable, but some of these land races, we're talking are like you're saying, like the bud, it's all super larfy, 16 weeks, just can't really work with it. But, it's kind of that F1 hybrid thing, like, I mean, I do think that's also what happens when you do the land race hybridization, is that you're going to get actually some very vigorous plants because you're crossing really different genetics in there, and you're going to get that hybrid vigor in there.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. Yeah, right on, man. Lucas, you're down there. Is it just 12-12 all the time? Do you guys have to run lights during veg? Is it that kind of situation like our friends in Hawaii have to deal with part of the year?
Yeah, also we have to extend the photo period also, because if not, won't grow very well, won't have a decent yield. So same situation. But here we do have a lot of sun, so it's very good because people save money on electric bills. But it's not legalized, so you have to run to indoor many times. So yeah, that kind of situation.
Yeah, still very much like our old black market days, having to run lights at night, or you have to pull tarp and have the whole hoop blacked out so people can't see. Yeah, well, that's not the worst, man.
Joey, can I ask a question to our friend from Brazil?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Great. Hey, Lucas, I'm curious. We were talking about, inoculants and different cultures and how to kind of condition the soil. And as far as like anthropogenic soils go, king of them all is terra preta, right? From the Amazon. And I've always been really curious about terra preta, and I've heard that there are even farmers that are going and gathering the terra preta from areas, and they're harvesting it, they're selling it in bags as an agricultural amendment, and then they go reseed that area out to grow it, and it takes like at least 4 years for that to develop and create that culture. I was just curious to hear maybe any of your insights and what you thought of like terra preta from Brazil.
Nice, man. So unfortunately, uh, traveling through the north of Brazil, which is the region that have Amazon rainforest, man, lots of pastures, cattle and more cattle. So forests going down, and kind of sad. But yeah, I did not know that people were, I mean, commercializing, selling terra preta, but we do have a lot of research also with Embrapa, or local agency of agriculture. They invest a lot and biochar, charcoal, and pottery shards is definitely getting more and more popular. But yes, I yet have to. I think we all still have to gather together the knowledge to make that terra preta on site, right? With charcoal, with biology, with organic matter, and some farms do, some not. But yeah, people do have a lot of appreciation. I don't know if you guys know Sebastião Pinheiro. He's promoting biofertilizers like Jairo Restrepo. He is a close friend of Jairo Restrepo also, and works here in Brazil with a lot of those techniques, chromatography and Pfeiffer chromatography and that part of. But yeah, Preston, let me know if the suites or anything else I can detail more about Terra Preta.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, anything at all would be appreciated. And even those the people that you just mentioned, man, I would love to know more about their work too.
Yeah, so here in South America, people have more the culture of biofertilizers, which kind of seem to me, and they kind of inherited this following trend. Yeah, they use those methods, some techniques very well, like chromatography, which you can see kind of how healthy your soil is, how.
He just fell off, but hopefully he'll come right back. We lost him there. It was just getting juicy. Um, yeah, very cool to hear about what's happening in Brazil. Okay, we'll bring him right back in here. Hey, Lucas,
Yeah.
we lost you there.
So yeah, man. People and they do some courses, they do some training around Brazil, around another countries. So Ana Primavesi is a she was a woman agronomist here in Brazil, and just amazing thoughts and works with agroecology that I also encourage you guys to search about and learn more about her work. Unfortunately, most of her work in Portuguese also, but she definitely have lots of good work about mineral balancing, mineral ratios, nitrogen to copper, not not enough to have too much nitrogen if you don't have enough copper. And she definitely was a huge pioneer here in Brazil about those type of knowledge. So which kind of unites with Jairo and Sebastião Pinheiro, regenerative methods.
Awesome, thank you.
Hey, Lucas, what inputs are you offering up to your community? What are you making there? You mentioned the Mokashi, you mentioned the EM1. Are those mostly what you're making and offering, or do you have a whole product line, or what's best serving the community there?
So yeah, man, mostly from Kyusei, nature farming. So fermented plant extracts, FPE, anaerobic bokashi without oxygen, EM5, the natural defensive, insect repellents. So I took those recipes from Epinam manual, which we can all get through Google. Epinam manual, the PDF. So you have simple recipes, molasses and EM1 or even LAB. And I have been refining and refining and refining because I think I generate profit upon those inputs which people buy from me. So I make sure I extract the best quality possible. So I include sea salts, and azomite is one good input that is recommended. Also, I learned all this in with Vini Pinto. I don't know if you guys ever heard about him. He's from US, so he have write wrote some a book named advanced fermentation with syntropic antioxidative microbes. So in this book, you find the PDF online. In this book, you have a series of great recipes, which are like complex recipes to work with EM1, because the best part of EM1, which he emphasizes a lot, is phototrophic, photosynthetic bacteria. And I do have some great results expanding those phototrophic bacteria, also capturing them from leaf mold. So for a time I saw those recipes and I think, man, just EM1 have phototrophic bacteria, those Rhodopseudomonas palustris, Rhodobactes phaeroides, and so on. So I came here and make the same recipe, like including fish hydrolysate or shrimp hydrolysate, which is animal protein, which feeds very, very well this type of bacteria. Also using malic acid and azomite sea salt, many of other stuff. And I saw very good results. Also the reddish color of the ferment with leaf mold, they smell very unique, very great, which I don't have a microscope, but to me that seemed like phototrophic bacteria. So yeah, I make those complex ferments and have been working very well to many people around Brazil with such small dosages, and even foliar applications like 1 to 2 ml per liter of water, spray. Another day the plant's like praying a lot. So yeah, and it is easy to do. You don't have to use energy, electricity. You don't have to have a pump, and it is shelf stable, which is maybe the most important point for commercialization. So Jardin have great solutions, but JMS, for example, is not shelf stable. So when we compare to those fermentations, stay for quite a long time viable. And if they are not viable, we still have a whole lot of secondary metabolites produced by those microbes, and especially the phototrophic bacteria, which I have been talking about, which produce very unique and special compounds of regeneration of land, of water, of animals, and so on. So yeah, such a journey.
Yeah, Lucas, that was so interesting. I got questions. I saw Preston just unmute his mic. I know he's got questions.
Could you just real quick repeat that was on the ferments and the syntropic PDF you were talking about?
Yeah, it is Apnan Manual. APNAN Manual. PDF on Google. It is the manual that teaches a lot about the Kyusei Nature Farm, which originated with Mokichi Okada, if I remember well. And then Dr. Higa came with VM1 around the 80s. Mokichi Okada started on the 30s, 40s.
Yeah,
Did you
Lucas.
did you found it, the manual?
I did. Thank you so much. I
Type it in
appreciate that.
private chat, Lucas, and then I can share it here on the screen if you type it in the private chat there. I don't know if you see that on the screen there. But yeah, what you were saying about JMS doesn't store long term. We found some solutions, spraying it like an IMO pile, storing it on some grains. And I know Preston's had some interesting experience with some of that long-term storage. We could talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I want to ask you, I'd always heard that some products like, oh no, we lost him. He's going to come back. But yeah, maybe Preston, while I got you here, tell us how you did those long-term storages with JMS, because I know you did some experiments with that, correct?
So, yeah, I actually have. There's a method they even talk about in the Orange Bible, the Jadam book, and you can make a shelf stable version, which is essentially just making a liquid batch of JMS. And what you would do is essentially make, like an IMO3. So you would take that, add it to a milled down substrate, a grain of choice that's been processed to some degree, and you'd inoculate that substrate and grow your culture on that substrate just the same way you would with, you can do it with leaf mold, you can do it with, the IMO2s is the traditional can-out method to do that. But you can pretty much bypass those methods. And I have a YouTube video on my channel, Rug Regenerative Agriculture. I was just trying to pop over there and I was going to drop a link in to share that. But the next video I'm going to do is also another technique for just taking leaf mold. So you can bypass making IMO 1 and 2. And actually, when I was touring with the Joe family for the last Jadam tour across the United States, one night I was having some beverages of choice after the tours with Young Sane. He shared the original recipe of IMO 3, and it's not using IMO 1 and 2 to culture IMO 3. Actually, it was the original methodology coming from Kyu Cho, the founder of KNF, was actually using leaf mold. And there's a whole story about how the family got involved in the original book, and they came up with this more complex way of culturing IMO 1 and 2 to get to 3, but you can bypass that. And I think this is, and I'm going to share the story, and I'm going to share the methodology to do that, because, there's people that get really turned off by the many processes involved with getting to IMO 3 and 4. I mean, you're looking at basically 4 months down the road if things go well for you to culture that. And so simplifying these processes, I think, makes it more accessible for people. It makes it more interesting. And I think, like, you just have, a better rate of people that are going to stick around and try to use these methodologies rather than get frustrated that it's not working for them, and just go to another methodology. So I'll look for that link to the shelf stable JMS.
Yeah, very cool. Before we lost you there, Lucas, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about EM1. You were saying, yeah, shelf stable. That makes it really a lot more doable for commercial ag to adopt. We run into this here, even on these smaller cannabis farms, trying to get people to adopt these practices. They're used to going to the store. They don't have time to make their inputs. That's a lot more to learn. It's, they got to do this in steps, and being able to buy the good inputs is a good step to learning that, oh, this stuff actually works, prove it, and then get the interest in making it themselves and start to close those loops. So it's so important that we got people like you and people like Preston making these inputs for their communities that they're in. Something we'd always heard when we were learning about JMS and there was fear about inputs like EM1, that those kind of microbes could overtake your indigenous microbes or the microbes that we're culturing in our Jadam microbial solutions, that those might dominate some of the microbes in our soil, and that those might not be the best, and may not always be the best microbes for our site, for our elevation, our exposure. What are your thoughts on that? Tell us a little bit more about EM1 and the benefits of that, and what am I talking about here? Are there any of those concerns valid?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, definitely, because it is a very available product and they bring in some special quality. Definitely, I believe in that. And the organisms are not genetically modified, they are natural, they are obtained on the country that they are produced, but I don't know very much about that part. But it is a very powerful tool for soil regeneration, water regeneration, for the health of animals, for our guts also. And you can definitely make the best out of it, out of it by making some complex recipes, which I have, like I have said, with Vini Pinto book, advanced fermentation with syntropic antioxidative microbes. So yeah, for some people that don't have time, don't have the knowledge or don't want to get their hands on, it's very nice to have EM1, and you can make a whole lot of fermentations with it. You can make a natural defensive like EM5, also combining alcohol and vinegar and molasses and some hot plants like peppers. You can use grasses to make fermented plant extracts. You can make, like something like which Preston was talking about, the JMS to store. So apply the JMS on the brand. So you can also make an aerobic bokashi, apply the EM1 on brand, on charcoal. Very great to inoculate some biochar, make it functioning, make it mineralized, also with other inputs. So yeah, I definitely think it have its value and can potentialize the ecosystem, since those, especially those phototrophic bacteria, are the most versatile microbe we know up to date scientifically. They can basically do many things to survive in many ways, with or without light, with or without carbon sources, and so on.
Hmm. Right on, brother. Much appreciated. Hey, I want to welcome to the show our good buddy Casey O'Neill of Happy Day Farms, another amazing farmer, ganja farmer, community leader, part-time fireman. What don't you do up there, Casey? And we know you're recovering from COVID right now, so we're super honored you'd make some time, bro, to kick it with us and take a little break during the hottest part of the day. We love you, buddy. We hope you're doing well up there. How's things going up at Happy Day Farms today?
Shit, man, it's crushing. It's definitely the classic. Like, couldn't do market today because of COVID, and all the tomatoes are ready. Everything came in, so I managed to ship some produce. So feeling pretty good about it, but also kind of feeling like, damn, I wish I was at market today because I got a gang of shit coming in. But overall, I got no complaints. Life's good. Thanks for having me.
Always, brother. Super stoked to have you join us. And yeah, we got a really interesting panel right now. We've got our buddy Lucas from Brazil, regenerative farmer and educator down there. Has been doing a lot of good work. And we've got our buddy Preston, who's down in San Diego, doing a lot of regenerative farming and education, syntropic farming down there. I think you know Preston from some of our events back here when he was living up in Humboldt and Oregon.
So yeah.
And we've got our buddy Jamie from Zeno Seed Company out of the Bay Area, awesome breeder, and just got some of his genetics into the rec market. So you might have access to grow those yourself through Finest Cannabis. But yeah, Casey, we know you guys had a crazy year up there on Bell Springs. I've been hearing about the grasshopper plague that's been plaguing the neighborhood there, like nothing I've ever heard. Maybe we could talk about IPM, and we could talk about this time of year, what's going on the farm. What are you dealing with up there? I know things are never easy for a farmer. It's always something new. Tell us about the latest busyness. Yeah.
But we started last year, me and my brother, we just started saying like, well, it's always something. And so that way, if you figure like, oh, it's always something, you don't get too high, you don't get too low. We definitely, every year, this year's the year, dog. And then sometime in August, fuck, looks like next year's the year. But yeah, the grasshoppers were brutal. I think at this point we kind of turned a corner on them. We did some, like hot pepper, garlic soaks, and steeps, and then using that for IPM to spray. But what ended up working the best for us was just pure exclusion, just deploying the insect netting. We used the Protect net, and that worked. That and hand picking, like pick them all off, get the Protect net over. And once the plants are big enough, it seems like they're pretty durable. But like we had done a couple of plantings of late clones that just like 48 hours later, there was nothing but sticks left. So yeah, I mean, the grasshoppers were a pain in the ass. They seem like they've kind of gone by the wayside. The usual cabbage moths and stuff on the brassica right now really getting going, which doesn't bother me for like the bigger plants, but it's a pain in the ass in the propagation house. Um, and so, at some point I may spray some Bavaria Bassiana, or same thing, the garlic cayenne kind of steep. But right now I'm just hand picking and excluding with the insect netting. Seen a little bit of aphids here and there, both brassica aphids and cannabis aphids. But overall, I mean, it's been kind of a banner year. I'm kind of seeing, me and my brother have been talking about this a lot, because I kind of like, my place uses more water, and so I have a lot of diversity of plant species. And so I didn't really have any trouble with the grasshoppers, because there was plenty of stuff for them to eat. And because Lito's farm kind of came online after mine, A, we haven't really built up the species diversity as much yet, and B, I've kind of dominated the water usage, and so he doesn't have that sort of bank of species diversity, and so we had a lot of hard times with the grasshoppers over there. So it's definitely just a really clear lesson for us in terms of like, oh, yep, species diversity is a fucking key component of successful agriculture, especially with climate change and the way, it's just hotter and drier every year and smokier and all that shit. So we're just kind of rolling with it. We got a grant for some increased water storage that we're super, super stoked about. So we got new pumps this year, which is helping us pump more water from the pond. And then we're going to get some tanks next year. So that's going to make just a fucking foundational difference for us. And so we started doing some, over at his place, doing some comfrey hugels and just trying to, like I say, boost the species diversity, have a place for the beneficial insects to land, and just fucking keep it rolling. Like at my place, just seeing in the cut flowers, the ami, which is it's a wild carrot essentially, like the incredible species diversity of beneficial insects. There's just dozens of different kinds of species, and hundreds upon hundreds of insects, and the bumblebees just going nuts and stuff, and all that just really just brings a lot of joy to my life. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the overall roundup. At the end of the day, really, I got no complaints. It's been a glorious year. We've had some real heat, but that's par for the course in the summer, and I'm feeling good. Well, starting to feel better at least.
I got dogs trying to encroach on my area here. I'm fighting them back right now. Yeah, that's wild. Tasty hearing about those grasshoppers, man. I was talking to a couple of your neighbors there who are losing whole plants, and yeah, it seemed to just be in some gardens and not others, and really just hit or miss. It got so bad they started catching them and chocolate dipping them. I heard they were pretty tasty.
Yep. Yeah. Same thing. My homegirl's putting them in smoothies. She puts them in the freezer and then dries them up in smoothies and shit.
Hey, another yield out of the garden, right? We're always trying to find a new yield. Close those loops.
Straight up. Yep.
Case,
yep.
You're always on the cutting edge of the market gardener scene. You've really adopted. You've always got new tools that make your job easier and more efficient. Make it so a small crew, your family can do so much on some really steep land. It's just incredible the Garden of Eden that you guys have built up there on the top of Bell Springs. And what are some of those tools that have really been key? I know a couple of years ago, getting that walk behind tractor really changed some operations. Yep. Talk about what big change that was, how that upped your output, and what have been some of those cool tools that have really changed the game for you guys.
Yeah, the BCS was phenomenal because it lets us deal with the cover crop more effectively. And so, I'm seeing a lot of market gardeners starting to move towards crimping, and not so much flail mowing and harrowing, which is kind of the methodology for the BCS. For me, it's like I really like it because I can, with the flail mower, it chops the cover crop up real small. The harrow kind of mixes it. It's got vertical tines that rotate, so it doesn't invert the soil like a tiller. And so I get soil contact for that cover crop to get it to decompose. So I get better breakdown, quick breakdown, and then I can move into whatever my next crop is. So the BCS has been really key, and especially with the vegetable cultivation, we're really moving. Like every year, we kind of move further and further into this like really rapid, intensive rotation. And so the kind of the latest additions for me have been the paper pot and the drop seeder. So paper pot transplanter is essentially a little cart that tows along, and it's got the paper pot. The transplanter is like it's a honeycomb paper that you stretch out, you fill with soil, you sow the seeds. It's got 264 cells to it, and then they just kind of accordion out as the transplanter goes down the row. So it's all mechanical, no engines or anything, and it enables me. You know, I cut my seeding, transplanting, and production overall, like production time by about 90% to bring salad mixes, turnips, beets, like bok choy, kales, or collards, etc. Like to all those crops to bring them to market, cut it by about 90%, which means now I can do all of the labor myself, except for I need a little help on harvest day and I need a little help clearing beds. And so if I get about, you know, 8 to 16 hours a week of helping hands, I can do the whole rest of it myself. So it's been like it really revolutionized the vegetable production process for me, in which I'm just able to do so much more with my own time and my own capabilities, and also it's not as much stoop labor. So the transplanting, not transplanting, you know, 1,000 lettuce plugs by hand, doing them with the paper pot, and it takes, you know, less than an hour, and the rows are perfectly straight. The bed looks gorgeous. There's no weeds because um, you're ahead of the process. You know, the weed germination because you're planting starts that are already this tall. And so essentially, with I have four 14 by 50 production vegetable hoops. It's basically like having a fifth hoop, because instead of direct seeding and waiting for stuff to germinate, do you get even germination? How much weed pressure do you have? All that's happening in the germination chamber and in the propagation house, so that you're just planting out healthy seedlings. And it just works fucking phenomenally. And so it's definitely, there's more of an upfront cost to it. Each of the paper trays, it's about $3 to $4 a piece. So I have to be really on point with my seeding. I have to make sure that I get good germination, I get good watering in the propagation house, so I'm not losing starts along the way. But so long as I hit all of those, then it's just the production in the greenhouses is just fucking flawless. So that's been just an unbelievable shift for us in terms of kind of moving from a vegetable business that is essentially like a really fun hobby that might break even, to something that I can actually start to pay myself a little bit at. Because as it used to just be like, well, cannabis subsidized everything and that was fine. And then as the market has shifted with cannabis, it's been a lot more like, okay, you know, this fun hobby that really, you know, food production really is kind of like deep in my soul. But it's you gotta fucking practice it a lot to get to a point where you can sell it, and earn a living at it. And so we're, you know, this is our 14th year of farmers market and CSA, community supported agriculture, like box of vegetable subscription service. And this, it's really clicking for us in ways that it has never happened before. So that's just been an incredible delight to, you know, to really experience. And then, you know, Amber's cut flowers are really crushing. Here's just kind of like a quick, just look around the garden real quick, and we can kind of just stroll. And the squash are banging, and as we get over to the top of the slope and look down, that's, you know, you can see the cannabis is really doing well, and everything's just kind of thriving. Those squash look like they need a little water, but overall, you know, we're feeling really good about things right now. And it's August, so August is the hard month, but just seeing the rotations really start to work, and, you know, just figuring out now that I don't have to seed. You know, I just try to sow about 7 trays a week, and if I can, you know, 5 to 10 trays every week, then there isn't this huge bulge of stuff that needs to get planted out, and there isn't, you know, I never have this huge amount of bed prep I have to do, and so it always just kind of, you know, you can kind of click into the rhythm of it, and that's really been working out pretty amazingly for us. So
Oh, thanks for showing us that little tour of the garden there. Look beautiful. Plants are looking like monsters this year.
They're
Uh,
smacking, dude. And like doing, oh man, I just love seed plants so much. Like I love growing from seed. You know, I don't have anything. I like clones are cool too. You know, but like, fuck, I like working with seeds and same thing. Like the market's been really weird. You know, and it seems like we're finding a bit of a niche for some of our seed genetics, and then also just getting to play with some fun, like personal use stuff. I got this Colombian that's fucking 8.5 feet tall already. It's just huge, and I'm like, wow, this is. Every year I start seeds a little later, figuring like I don't really want to be up on ladders and all that, but the plants just they know what to do, and they like the sun here, and the soil is just getting better with time, so it's good. I'm super stoked.
yeah, isn't that something that just gets easier over time as your soil gets better and better, and the plants just want to grow bigger and bigger. Later and later every year, thinking they're going to be smaller and smaller, and they're just
Yep,
bigger.
just going, and it's funny, like I say, we're always playing with new methodologies, and so like this year we've been talking to a lot of people who are doing a lot of like much later clone plantings, kind of sea of green clone plantings, and so we did some of that, and oh fuck, it was right when the grasshoppers came on, and there was a point where like me and Lito were just like, what the fuck are we doing here with these little tiny plants? And I'm looking at my seed plants and they're just fucking banging, don't give a fuck about a grasshopper, whatever. And but at the same time, it's like the little plants, the sea of green kind of late plantings, like you really don't have to fertilize.
We lost your mic, Casey. You froze up for a second there, buddy. Hopefully you'll pop back on here in a second. But yeah, it's up. There you are.
So, yeah, sorry, froze.
You're good. Talk to us a little bit about farm cut canna, because I'm a huge fan. This is how we like to give our friends a jar of flour when we give it to them. And you have brought this, what we consider the highest grade of flour that can be given to someone, to the rec market, along with some of our other favorite farmers. Yeah, give us a little rundown on farm cut canna and what that actually means, and
Man,
explain to your average smoker why this is better herb.
it's so fucking great. Like to see it kind of start to work, and like big shout out to Joseph from Emerald Spirit Botanicals, like their work creating and stewarding and shepherding unique, cannabinoid genetics. The Pink Goose Goddess, 9% THCV, and a bunch of these, different CBG, CBC, high CBD, 1-to-1. Like they've really been fostering and breeding and creating these unique genetics over the years, and his kind of ability to go out into the world and really, I don't know, almost like proselytize what he's doing and really speak for the plant and speak to to the customers and to the dispensaries has really kind of helped to carve a niche for us. But the whole idea behind the brand was like I don't trim my jar of weed on the farm, and we got tired of like weed going in bulk to just get the shit kicked out of it and processing facilities and get stuffed into little tiny jars. And so, the initial kind of idea behind it was like, I just wanted to do 1 ounce jars, take the water leaf off, leave the sugar leaf on, and send it out to market. And like, we didn't get a whole lot of traction at the ounce level, but now mostly what we're doing is quarter ounces. And it's been working out really great, because one of the things that we keep finding is that once it goes into the dispensary channel, you don't have any idea how long it's going to be there. How's it going to sit on that shelf? What's it going to look like by the time it goes home with somebody? And so, we're doing it like old school mason jar style. So it's mason jar with, and we get the seal, the mason jar seal, and we vac seal every jar on the farm so that it's going out. It's sealed for freshness, and so when the consumer opens it, it pops. And and like I say, we leave some of the sugar leaf on to try to protect the terpenes, protect the trichomes, and make sure that when it finally arrives in somebody's hands, they get something that they're fucking happy with. Because there's so many times where like the herbs just sitting on the dispensary shelf, or it's sitting at the distro or whatever. And so this was really kind of our attempt to go to market, kind of on our own 2 feet in the image of how it looks on the farm. So that's the idea, is like the jar looks just how it looks, my head stash looks. And we're just trying to put it out into the world with, some love and good energy about it. And it's been working out good. We've been getting some really good feedback, really positive feedback. It's been a fucking hell of a struggle. Like, it's 5 little tiny farms trying to figure out how to get packaging and fucking get it all to work through the Nabis portal on the distro, and fucking all the steps you got to deal with, in the new world, instead of like the 215 farmers market, big jar of weed on the table. If you like some, fucking take it home with you, so, but we're figuring it out, and we're feeling super, super stoked, and just super grateful for it. Like, like I say, to be able to go to market on our own, we didn't take on any funding. We don't owe anybody anything on it. We're just kind of figuring it out. And so it's definitely, we all did the Emerald Grown Co-op, and so now I've been through like 4 cooperative iterations, and we learned a lot of lessons along the way. And this is one of those things where, like, on our own, like Happy Day, we would never have been able to do this. And so, like, it's like Daniel and Taylor figuring out the packaging shit, and Joseph going out and doing all the dispensary tours all around the state and talking to everybody, and Galen doing a bunch of paperwork, and so it's like a whole bunch of, like, everybody bringing their skill sets to kind of make, put the transformers together and make something happen. So we're feeling really good about it.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. Well, we know that that flower looks better with that leaf on it. It's all that crystally leaf that often just gets trimmed off of there. And when you got all that leaf on there, there's no faking the funk. You can't hide if there was pests. You can't hide if there was PM on there. A lot of these other farms that talk shit could never leave their leaf on their bud, because you would that, oh, I don't want to smoke this. You can, it tells the tale of what that plant just went through. And if it's clean and it's crystally and it's fucking dank, that plant lived a good, healthy, happy life. And yeah, you've got some other awesome farmers in that collective. If you want to shout out some of those guys, I know Farms, our buddy Daniel Fink, who was a big part of our Cured Cup. He was our lead judge at our Cured Cup out in Ottawa County in May, and we got mad love for those guys. So yeah, if you want to big up the rest of the farm.
Yep. Daniel and Cammy at Down Home, and then Galen and Ruby at Whitethorn Valley Farm, Daniel and Taylor at Bryceland Forest Farm, and then Katie Jean, Joseph, and River at Emerald Spirit Botanicals, and then me, Lito, and Amber here at Happy Day. And yeah, it's been really, it's nice to, like, I don't know, to just work with people that you're like, that you can break bread with, that you share values with, and like there's this kind of a tightness to it, because it's been fucking hard, and it's like everything about the just dealing with the regulated bullshit marketplace is an uphill battle. And so it's been really cool to be able to, like, share that journey, and like, it's been, there's been times where any one of us stumbles, or especially for me, there's been times where I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing here? And those guys really, like, supporting and helping to kind of pick us up and help us, get back on our feet when we fall down, has been really, really crucial for us.
That's good, man. Yeah, it's been a marathon. I mean, you guys are 7, almost 8 years into recreational weed now, and we're just so glad that so many of our friends have stayed in the race this long, and that you can still get that good herb on shelves. We see a lot of good small farmers in Humboldt and Mendo still fucking carrying the torch and doing it, man. And we're super proud of you guys, and so awesome to see Emerald Spirit taking those trophies at the California State Awards again, and so many of our favorite small farmers winning those trophies. So it's they're not going to the big corporate growth; they're going to the small farmers as well. So
straight up,
it's tough to tell.
And also, like, dude, big shout out to guys doing the work to get the herb to market, like fucking, Redwood Roots and Madrone, and like all the cats out there. It's like, like farming's hard work, but it's the fun part of the process. It's not fucking. I mean, sometimes, but for the most part, it's not fucking spreadsheets and transport and fucking computer portals and all that shit. And it's like that's to me, that's like the hardest part of the process, and it's the thing I struggle the most with. And so it's like, dude, the homies that are fucking making that stuff happen for us, like, oh man, it's so it's the difference between farming and gardening. And gardening's fucking awesome, but you're a farmer or you're a gardener until you sell something. And so if you want to be a farmer, you gotta sell it. And at this point, like without that support network, I'd be dead in the water. So it's just big appreciation to all those cats that are out there fucking beating the streets and making it happen. And to the retail shops, it's like, I feel like it's like everybody loves to hate on the other part of the chains, because it's like, well, who's making the money? And like at this point, nobody's really making the money, and everybody's just trying to figure it out. And like, just big up to everybody like doing work to get the herb to the people, to get some fucking dank in the hands of people who are just, hoping to have a good day. So it's, we're definitely just lot of love and appreciation.
Yeah, there's a lot of cogs in the wheel of this machine right now, and we all got to be functioning together. And yeah, we are
So
lucky.
many.
There's a lot of distros that have come from the trenches as well, that come from our area, know the struggles of the farmer. A lot of them are farmers themselves, and
Yeah.
like you said, working with the Farm Cut crew, it's nice to know people that have been, they're currently in the trench with you, and they've been
Straight up
for the last decade, and the black get medical before that. So it's nice when people are a lot humbler when they've been through a decade of some humbling.
Straight up.
Yeah, make it a lot easier to work with. What genetics are you running these days, Casey? Are you growing all from seed? Are you getting some clones from the Dutch up there, or what do you got going on?
Yeah, mix and match for sure. Like I'm still holding on to my Ogreberry. Fucking 15 years we've been running it. And we caught a bad test result on a batch last year. I tested it 20 or 21 or whatever, and which nowadays, 10 years ago, 20 was like, fuck yeah, dude. And now it's like, oh, 20 is not going to sell. So we caught a bad test result on a batch last year that really fucking hurt. And so this year we're doing a much smaller amount of it, even though, and that's one of the tricky things with seeds is like, you can get really different test results sometimes. And the whole testing thing is kind of weird anyway. But so I'm still holding on to my Ogreberry. We're doing quite a bit of the Orange Durban, actually. That's another one that, like, it's not the highest tester, but it's a killer fucking sativa. It grows phenomenally. It's beautiful herb, and it's just got a great head to it. It makes you giggly and happy. So I'm doing a bunch of that, and then I got some gear from Rebel Ground. So I got some Golden Grams by Blue Dream, some Double OG Cam, some headband, and then we're doing, in terms of clones, we got the Bacon again, which is like kind of a cross of a bunch of different things that we've been working with over the years. The Sour Strawberry, the Great Success, the Something Good, the Sour Snow. We called that one the Bacon. The Avenue of the Giants again, which is kind of an old favorite. It's super terpene bomb. Has tested as high as 6% terps. Doesn't always hit that number, but it's just fucking killer weed. And then we're doing the Something Good again, which is just it's a Sour D cross, Sour D Sour Strawberry by Sour Snow. It's got a lot of sour in it. A lot of that strawberry kush that I've been just loving on for fucking almost, I don't know, 12, 15 years. And then we got some new, like, we're doing the Papaya Bomb, the Purple Cream, which apparently is fire, but I can't really find anything about on the internet, and I never actually seen it yet. So it's always kind of weird to like grow these new things that are new and exciting, but I've never done before. And then we're doing the Gelinate again. We did really good with that. We're doing the Gastro Pop, which was fucking phenomenal. That's grape gas by Apples and Bananas, and we tried it out last year, and it was just outstanding. So we ran it again this year, and it was really, really fucking great. Did a little hoop of the Blue Dream at Lido's just for fun. It's like, if you'd asked me in 2008, what do you think of Blue Dream? I'd be like, it's my favorite weed. I love it. If you asked me in 2013, what do you think of Blue Dream? I'd be like, fuck Blue Dream, bullshit. So now it's kind of this nostalgic throwback, kind of, I don't know, kind of funny. And then what else are we doing? We got Strawberry Biscotti again. That's like, we kind of like the cut almost got lost, kind of made it to a nursery, kind of had to get sifted. Like initial cut had what you call it, the fucking hop latent, and then we got another cut, man. So anyway, we got one row of strawberry biscotti. We're really trying to bring that back for next year because it's just fucking dominant. And then we got some government oasis and some blue nerds and some sherbet cream pie, and I think that's the roundup.
Hey
Good.
Casey, may I ask you a question?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so have you guys found a effective method to control grasshoppers? Which one worked best?
I mean, for us, it was really exclusion. We deployed a lot of the insect netting, and so we go through and hand pick them off, get rid of them off the plants, and then put the insect netting over the top. And that was really the best bet for us. Like we tried the cayenne garlic, steeping that in hot water overnight and spraying that, and it kind of seemed like it just made the plants spicy for them, and they liked it. But there was we were having such a hard time with them that for us at the end the exclusion was what really worked. It kept them out, gave the plants time to get big enough that now we're not really having any trouble with them at this point.
Yeah, I heard from your neighbors it was so bad that they put their chickens in the garden and the chickens were scared and ran out of the garden. There was grasshoppers just covering the ground, covering every surface, every
Oh
plant.
man.
The chickens couldn't fucking handle it. So
Yeah, we put the turkeys out and it was amazing. We're like, yeah, turkeys are like fucking like Star Wars dinosaurs, just nah, and they were just murdering. And then like 2 nights later, 8 turkeys got killed, and we were like, oh fuck. So it was like we were like, yeah, we win, and then we were like, oh fuck. So turkeys will totally do it if you enclose them at night, and keep them safe from predators. Guinea hens are even better because they roost up in the trees, so you don't have to worry about them so much with predators. And so either turkeys or guinea hens will definitely kick ass on fucking grasshoppers, but just how you navigate the predator question is a big one.
yeah, a lot of predators out there. You got mountain lions and coyotes and raccoons and possums.
Yep, foxes and bobcats and skunks and everybody likes chicken.
Neighbors' dogs. Yeah, everything.
Foxes was my hardest thing out in those hills.
Yeah, foxes for sure, dude. They're so wily. Oh, fantastic, Mr. Fox. And it's funny, like all those children's nursery stories where the farmer's always like the dickhead, and now I'm like, oh.
Casey, it was awesome hearing about some of your old strains. I used to grow a bunch of your sour strawberry and
Yep.
Yeah, some of those other the strawberry kush and a bunch of those, man. I'm so happy to hear you're still keeping that stuff around. And what you were saying, man, about 21%, yeah, 7-8 years ago, that was high testing. That's what the distro wanted to hear, and now that's low end. And unfortunately,
now like,
you still have people walking in the dispensary saying, "Give me the highest THC."
Totally.
Yeah. What's been your finding on that, dealing with distros, and how do you educate the consumer and those middlemen?
It's fucking tough, man. It's like, now it's pretty much like, oh, well, if it ain't 25, we don't want it. And even like 25, they're like, oh, okay, 25, I guess. And it's like, it's just tough. Like I say, I think Joseph's doing as much work as anybody in the state, on the education front. And because he's not pushing high THC at all, he's pushing nothing but alternative cannabinoid medicine. So, I do see that the conversation is shifting, and it's just, we're still 5-10 years away from a mature marketplace where there's a consumer that really understands. And so it's just, you're still fighting that uphill battle of like, what's the highest THC? And so for us, it's kind of like, we grow some of the hot shit that's super high testing and is going to get us in the door. And once we've, kind of established a good relationship, and the distro knows us, the dispensary buyer knows us, the dispensary bud tenders know us, then if we come with something that we recommend that's really fucking nice, that doesn't have the highest test result, they'll help us moving on through, because they know it's like, oh, this is fucking dank herb. It's going to make your head feel good. Like, what's the point of this whole thing? Is it the experience or the number? And like, on the one hand, if you think the number influences the experience, then it's gonna, because it's so fucking subjective. But at the same time, like, the number really is just, it's like an industrial quantification of something that you can't really quantify. So, like I say, we definitely are gonna, we've been pushed. We had to let go of some of our all-time favorites just because they don't meet the testing. But we also are still holding on to some of the, some of the things that we've managed to get some traction with, and kind of built a reputation for, and just looking forward to that day when either we on the one hand, we see a more educated, broader consumer base, and also at the same time we get more access, get back to doing the direct to consumer type of thing that we used to do with the little farmers markets and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, for the time being, it's just kind of hold on to your butts, and also, I've had to learn some hard lessons that, like, as a farmer, you got to grow what sells. And so it's like, just because I think it's great, or I think it's whatever, you gotta produce what people want. And so we try to find the balance there, and then just try to stay relevant, but also, like, try to bring people back to, like, what we think is great. So there's some, kind of a match there.
Right on, man. Appreciate that insight. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left here, you guys, when we're going to wrap this up. But I want to open up the floor here to all you guys. If any of you guys got questions for each other, Jamie, our seed breeder up top there, if you got any thoughts on those high THC percentages, I know it's like you're breeding for the rec market.
No.
Right now, the name of the game is high THC. You know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely. I definitely think that, absolutely. There's definitely things that I grow and breed for personal use that I don't really think people want to buy. And I think part of what he was saying a second ago, you do some of both, and that absolutely helps. And I find that, people want me to have a lemon cherry gelato times permanent marker in there, bolo runs, cap junkie, whatever, they want the name brand recognition stuff. Absolutely. And I do find it's like you mix in basically the stuff everyone's asking for that, people are going to buy from the name, like the cap junkie, the permanent marker, the Zope, the RS11, things, because you start selling seeds and you start to realize, oh yeah, like that one that everyone knows, that's the one they're buying. They're not buying that clone I bought from my homie that no one's ever heard of before. But then you give people a little bit of what they want and establish a good reputation with them, and then they are willing to take a little more of a risk on something that's a little more interesting. But part of it is giving them what they want, and I do think with the high percentages, it's not my favorite stuff to smoke necessarily, but I'm happy to give people what they want at the same time. If they're willing to buy my seeds for it, I'm like, hey, if this is what you guys want, like, albeit. And then for myself, I'm probably going to smoke the Durban Poison times the black bubble gum, the Luxor Haze times the black bubble gum, even more kind of, super terpy stuff. Like he was mentioning the Gastropop. Love the Gastropop. I'm hunting the Gastropop times black bubble gum right now. Things with better terp profile. I definitely think, honestly, I think this high THC problem, so much of it is that you can't smell the jars anymore, right? I think if people in the shop could back like in medical day, you'd go and they have the big candy jars and you get to smell the jars, and then you don't buy based off THC. You're like, holy shit, I want that one. That one smells insane. But if you can't smell it, I don't know what the answer is if you can't smell it, because that's we know this. It's like that's got to be your number one way to judge if you want to smoke it, right? You crack the jar and you're like, holy crap, that's what I'm looking for. And they kind of, in some of the dispos, they've got those little samples you can smell, but then they're all dried out and all the terps are gone. So it's tough. I don't really know what we can do if you can't smell the big candy jar anymore and be like, holy crap, and also get it fresh enough that it's still really got the terp profile locked in.
Yeah, absolutely right, man. So true. And like Casey was saying, especially in the rec market, you don't know when that herb leaves the farm, how long is it going to take before it ends up on a shelf and a consumer's actually popping that jar. It's often never the same product. So yeah, really breeding something that can withstand that terp, some resistant terps. Jamie, we're going to wrap it up here. Where I've got your Instagrams up here. People can get these new strains, the black bubble gum at Finest.
That's
licensed
specifically through the Dub Plates program through Finest. So if you want to order the black bubble gum breeder cut in clone form and you're a licensed California farmer, you want to go to dubplates.com. And you can also reach out to me directly and I can give, and here, I'll put that in the chat for you. Yeah, Dub Plate with a Z. Dubplates.com, that's Finest, like, kind of pilot program. You can get it there. Seed line is also ready to go right now. Right now, that's only available directly through me. So best way would be to reach out to me on my Instagram or through my email, xenoseedcompany@gmail.com. That's how, if you're looking to order black bubblegum feminized seeds, yeah, send me an email at xenoseedcompany@gmail.com, and that's the best way to get your hands on it. But if anyone has any questions, they can send me a message on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way to get in contact with me.
And come out and see Jamie at the next Regen Sesh in Oakland, Friday, August 16th. He's going to be joining us. That's where I first met Jamie, and we'll have a bunch of other breeders there. There's a seed swap table. There'll be a bunch of free veggie and cannabis seeds. There was a bunch of THCV seeds on the table last time. So, yeah, come on out, meet Jamie in person, and pick some of those packs up from him. And yeah, thanks for joining us today, Jamie. We'll be doing it again real soon. Absolutely. Casey, let me kick it over to you and get your plugs real quick, because you seem like you're on the road. We might lose you any moment. You might already be gone, but you there, dude? You want to plug it? Trying to unmute you. No, we'll go over to Preston. Hey, Preston, what do you got? What do you got coming up?
This year I've just been putting my feet down and establishing the food forest and started the new bee removal service, building my apiary. So I'm going to be, hitting the ground running towards harvest season and into next year. I want to go down to some of your events, so expect me being vending at those in the near future with a lot of different flavors of honey from SoCal and some tropical fruits here soon. So beyond that, if you need a bee removal in San Diego area, Save Bee San Diego is my new website. Rogue Natural Farming for any KNF inputs and John pesticide. I make little diets, but always there to help people out. And what I always say is make your own first, and if I can help out supplementing, will do.
Yeah, awesome, Preston. Much appreciated. Yeah, awesome resource to have in SoCal, LA, and San Diego. Please hit Preston up. Lucas, how about you? What do you want people to know? Where can people reach you?
So yeah, man, people can reach me on Instagram, Probióticos Três Marias. You can follow the work. And yeah, Brazil is still behind, way behind on cannabis scene, but we are moving towards. And by another way, Syntropic is very strong here. I think we can always exchange good informations, good techniques, good ideas to get together and make it better always, right? So much appreciation for the invite, for my friend Logan, for you, Joey, and everybody here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you for joining us all the way from Brazil. Are you there, Casey? You want to give us a plug for Happy Day? I'll give you a plug. And go to your local dispensary, ask for Farm Cut Canna and Happy Day Farms flour, and go out and support Happy Day Farms whenever you can. They're at the Laytonville Farmers Market every Monday when they don't have COVID. So super fun chat today with all you guys. A bunch of awesome farmers and killer stuff going on. Thanks for making time, y'all. Yeah, we'll be at the Lotus Church in Oakland, lotuschurch.com to sign up and become a member. And then we will be at the Regen Sesh August 16th, the Friday before the Emerald Cup. So everybody come on out. You can get your tickets at tinyurl.com/regensesh-August. It's $10 to come out. And yeah, much love, y'all. Casey, you want to give a quick plug, Happy Day, where people can reach you, or what you got coming up next?
Yeah, man. Happy Day Farms on Instagram, just at Happy Day Farms. And then I got my little weekly newsletter from the farm that gets published either on the Redheaded Black Belt, the news site up here in Humboldt, or I publish it on my Facebook page, just Casey O'Neill. And then, we're at the Laytonville Farmers Market on Mondays, Bell Springs Farmers Market on Thursdays, and staying pretty close to home for the next little while, just trying to get caught up on the farm and shit. But definitely appreciate the opportunity to chat with everybody, and thanks for having me on. Much love, y'all.
Oh, always a pleasure, brother. Thanks for making time. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Hottest part of the day. This will be on the Patreon all week, and then go live on YouTube on Friday. So appreciate all you guys. You guys are all awesome farmers, and I can't wait to see y'all in person, and we'll be doing some more of these. So hope you guys can join me again. Love you guys. We'll talk soon.
Oh,
Thanks,
yeah.
Joey.
All right.
Peace out.